Types of editing in proofreading. Calling in the pros. Do not fear the red pen. When you hear the word editing, what comes to mind? Grammar check, making sure there aren't plot holes, a piece of paper with lots of angry red notes all over it, an enjoyable process that will polish your novel to a shine? If you didn't answer yes to the last one, we'll try to help get you there. The red pen is your friend. There are several types of editing which I'll define next. For the most part, they come in the order you see here. You might come across variations of this process as well as other more specific forms of editors depending on who you work with. Developmental content editing, a big picture assessment of the manuscript. It's an overall view of the plot, structure, character development, conflict, and more. Sometimes the first 3 chapters of a manuscript are given a developmental edit to make sure the story is on the right track or to assist in actually developing the idea if it's still in its rough stages. Purpose: to find what's working, what's not, and help steer the writer in a direction that creates a cohesive plot, solid character motivations, and that the story hits its beats. If seeking a developmental editor, be sure they're familiar with your genre. Finding one via word of mouth or seeing an example of their work is helpful. Developmental editing will sometimes include grammar corrections as necessary, but that's not the focus of this phase and often won't address those issues. Line editing. The phase addresses the manuscript line by line, focusing on flow, language, vocabulary, and more. Attention is given to sentence structure, transitions, point of view, tense consistency, and more. Line editors get into the mechanics of the manuscript to simplify and clarify. Among others, the purpose here is to make the manuscript readable. They work with the writer to eliminate run-on sentences and transition scenes that end abruptly. Line editing is both an art and science in that it's intended to highlight the voice and tone of the novel while correcting syntax issues, eliminating cliches, and improving pacing. Grammar corrections often come as part of this phase because they're so clearly linked to language, but not necessarily. Copy editing focuses on the finer points of grammar. Here, you'll get a keen eye out for typos, spelling errors, and punctuation. A copy editor will follow a style guide so that throughout your manuscript, a word like t-shirt is consistently spelled that way as opposed to t-shirt, for example. Some copy editors also help bring your language alive by suggesting better words or phrasing. If a character sheet or story guide is available for your manuscript, they'll use it to make sure your main character's eyes are blue throughout and other consistency slip-ups, as well as checking facts. I'd always found the term copy editing kind of odd. In this instance, copy means the text and dates back to when monks would copy printed text to create books before the advent of the printing press. Kind of interesting. Proofreading, the final step before a book is ready for print or ebook. When printed copies were the only types of books available, it would be bound in a galley, copy with all the formatting already set. The proofreader gives the manuscript a final pass, mostly looking for pesky typos that weren't spotted through other rounds of revision and editing. However, there is one exception to the formatting, and that's made for widows and orphans. No, not people. In typesetting, widows are lines of a sentence that are left at the top of a page. An orphan consists of the starting lines of a paragraph that are left at the bottom of a page. Stylistically, these don't look pretty. It's less of an issue in digital publication, but is still something proofreaders often look for. Edits are suggestions at best, with the exception of grammatical errors. The editor is not supposed to change something without your permission. For this reason, it's best done using your preferred word processing software using the Track Changes feature. This way, the edits come in the form of comments and corrections, in the case of grammar issues, that you have to accept or reject. You'll have to make the changes both big and small yourself. For example, your editor asks you to expand more on this character's reaction. This keeps you in the author's seat and retain your unique stamp on the MS. Know your strengths. Ask for help with weaknesses. When working with a particular editor, depending on the phase, it can also be helpful to ask them to assess areas of your writing that you know aren't as strong as they could be. For instance, you can have them note if the story structure is solid or if the character motivations are clear, or if, like me, you and commas are natural enemies. That too. I've learned so much from editors and view it as a wonderful collaborative experience. Keep family and friends out of it. We recommend finding a professional editor and avoiding well-meaning friends or relatives because it can move into a gray area and become uncomfortable if they're not familiar with your genre or if the book is your baby and they're not all that gentle with their comments. The cool thing is, they'll still get to read the final product. Writers tend to be a sensitive bunch, and the editing phases can really sting sometimes. Anytime I receive editorial feedback, I brace myself, scan the document, and then step away long enough to remind myself that I am not my writing. It's not personal, and in most cases, the editor knows better than me and is invested in making sure I put out the best product possible. So just remember, it's not personal. We recommend reviewing your edits in 2 phases. First, read over your edit letter and all the suggestions without doing anything. Just read them. Let them sink in. Second, after a day or 2 or 3, go back and review them and make a plan for how you'll implement everything. So don't take your edits to heart, and if you're feeling the feels about it, hop in the Facebook group for support. We're here for you.